There was a time when the financial world stood in awe of a man named Charles Ponzi. To the public, he appeared to be a financial prodigy, the mastermind behind one of the most profitable investment operations America had ever seen. He controlled millions of dollars. Crowds lined the streets, desperately begging him to accept their money. What no one realized was this: Ponzi's entire empire was built on lies. It was an audacious fraud one that made him incredibly wealthy and destroyed the lives of tens of thousands of innocent people. His deception was so shocking, so infamous, that more than a century later, the scam still carries his name: the Ponzi Scheme. This is the untold story of the man behind it, and how he managed to create millions of dollars out of absolutely nothing. Charles Ponzi was born in Italy on March 3, 1882. His father worked as a postman, and while the family lived comfortably, things hadn't always been this way. Ponzi's grandparents and great-grandparents had been successful merchants, businessmen, and public officials. The family's decline into the working class deeply affected him. From a young age, Ponzi felt bitter and resentful. He couldn't understand why he had to suffer for his family's lost fortune. Why wasn't he born rich? Why couldn't he live a life of leisure without worrying about money? When Ponzi was a teenager, his father passed away, leaving him a modest inheritance. His mother hoped he would use the money to attend a prestigious college. Ponzi agreed, but he had very different plans. Instead of studying, Ponzi burned through his inheritance. He dressed in the latest fashions, dined at the finest restaurants, spent evenings at the theater, the opera, and casinos. Nothing was too extravagant. Ponzi enjoyed pretending he was just as wealthy as his rich friends, that he had endless money and unlimited potential, but it was an illusion. Eventually, the money ran out. His studies had been completely neglected, leaving him with no chance of graduating. His uncle offered him a job as a clerk, but the thought of a 9-to-5 job repulsed Ponzi. He believed he was destined for more than ordinary labor. With no money, no degree, and no patience, he felt he had only one option left. In 1903, Ponzi arrived in Boston aboard the SS Vancouver. He felt deep shame for disappointing his mother, and believed the only way to redeem himself was to return to Italy as a wealthy man. The problem was, he had no idea how to make that happen. America quickly shattered his illusions. With no inheritance and no family support, Ponzi was forced to work. Over the next few years, he drifted up and down the East Coast, taking whatever jobs he could find: sign painter, waiter, grocery clerk, dishwasher, factory worker, insurance salesman, sewing machine repairman. None of the jobs lasted long. He either quit because he hated the work or was fired for attempting to cheat customers. Often this left him stealing food, begging, or sleeping in parks. Even when he managed to earn a little money, he spent it recklessly, on lavish nights out or short vacations, desperate to relive the lifestyle he believed he deserved. In 1907, Ponzi moved to Montreal, hoping Canada would offer better opportunities. At first, things improved. He found work as a clerk at Banco Zarossi, a bank serving Italian immigrants. The bank offered unusually high interest rates, double the average. But there was a reason. The owner, Luigi Zarossi, was running a classic fraud, using money from new customers to pay older ones. When clients began complaining that their money wasn't reaching relatives back home, authorities stepped in. Before the investigation could conclude, Zarossi fled to Mexico with a suitcase full of cash, leaving his employees to face the consequences. Ponzi planned to flee back to the United States. Before leaving, he made a fatal mistake. He forged a check for $423.58 from a client's account, assuming it would go unnoticed. It didn't. The forgery was spotted immediately, and Ponzi was arrested. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After 2 years, Ponzi was released on parole. Almost immediately, he tried again. This time, he smuggled 5 undocumented Italian immigrants into the United States for money. He was caught again. This time, he received 2 more years in federal prison. When Ponzi was finally released, he was penniless and uncertain about his future. Eventually, he returned to Boston and found work as a clerk at an import-export firm. For the first time in years, things stabilized. He was good at his job, he was promoted, and then he met Rose Necco. They married in early 1918. Though Rose was content with a modest life, Ponzi wasn't. He dreamed of wealth, luxury, and admiration. Determined to prove himself, he quit his stable job and joined his father-in-law's struggling fruit business. It failed. Undeterred, Ponzi opened his own import-export company. No one cared. In August 1919, while sorting through his mail, Ponzi noticed a letter from Spain. Inside was something he had never seen before. An International Reply Coupon, IRC. These coupons could be exchanged for postage stamps in any country belonging to the Universal Postal Union. That's when inspiration struck. Ponzi realized that currency differences between countries meant IRCs could theoretically be bought cheaply in Europe and redeemed at higher value in the US. On paper, it sounded brilliant. He formed the Securities Exchange Company in January 1920. But reality intervened. The profits were tiny. Shipping costs erased them. There weren't enough IRCs in existence to scale the operation. Yet Ponzi refused to let go. Instead of abandoning the idea, he abandoned honesty. Ponzi promised investors 50% returns in 45 days, 100% returns in 90 days. There was no real investment. Money from new investors was used to pay earlier ones. Early investors, seeing real profits, reinvested and spread the word. The crowds exploded. Thousands lined the streets outside Ponzi's office. At its peak, he was taking in over $250,000 a day. Newspapers praised him as a financial genius. Ponzi lived lavishly: mansions, luxury cars, gold watches, and first-class travel. But it couldn't last. Journalists began asking questions. Experts calculated that Ponzi would need 160 million IRCs. Only 27,000 existed worldwide. The truth was undeniable. The scheme collapsed. Banks failed. Life savings vanished. Families were ruined. Ponzi was charged with 86 counts of mail fraud. He pleaded guilty to one. 5 years in prison. After his release, Ponzi tried again, this time selling worthless Florida swampland. He failed. He fled. He was caught. His wife divorced him. He served 7 more years in prison. Deported, broken, and forgotten, Ponzi died in poverty in Rio de Janeiro in 1949. Buried in a pauper's grave. Charles Ponzi didn't invent financial fraud. He perfected it. And the system he built still exists today. Different names, different technology, same illusion. Because belief, when sold convincingly, will always be more powerful than truth.